Hey Pat, we're going to take a look at how to um, give yourself some length on satin stitching. And I apologize, my screen's going to be a little different than your IDS screen, but here we are with a satin area. It's small. It's not as small as what you're working with probably, but to check the size, I'm going to go up and click on the ruler, and it's going to be next to your stitch properties. And then I get a bullseye cursor and I just press and hold my left mouse button and I drag along the length of one of these stitches to see what the length is. Now this is going to be bigger than the area you're working with, and I'm going to leave it at this size so that you can see a little bit more clearly maybe what I'm doing here, but you can see that's the length of that stitch, and certainly the edges would be shorter. So what I need to do is take a look at what can I do for a small satin area that's going to make it stitch better. And one of the first things I'm going to do is take a look at my property settings and what I can change on these to make this stitch better. So it's right click selected and flashing, and I'm going to go to my properties. There's my satin tab, and the first thing I'm going to go to is underlay. And I'm going to get rid of the zigzag underlay and use center. Okay, and let me show you what I did there again real quick. I basically, what we had was the zigzag was over there and it's in selected mode. So I just left click on it and I use the arrow to move it over to available. I left click on the center and move it over to selected. Now I'm going to also control these stitch lengths here. On my maximum step, even though that's not going to be the norm, I'm going to change that to 3 just in case. And on this I'm going to change it to 0.2, and I'm working in millimeters. Okay, so I'm changing those settings and making these stitch lengths shorter so that they kind of are a little better contained. Then I'm going to go to pull compensation, and since this is satin, I only really need to adjust, this standard value, or maybe the cross, but this is a pretty simple shape. So I'm going to take that up to 0.6 in millimeters. So I'm bumping that up a little bit. If this were a complex area, I might enable the cross and take that up to 0.6 as well. If I had a T shape, I might also increase the cross compensation. And on that last one, I apologize, it was the overlap. So now we're in the satin tab, and I'm going to take out this density. I'm going to make it about 0.55, 0.6, and open this up a little bit. And that's going to take out some of the, bulk in this small area. So let's just say okay, and there's our changes. And now I'm going to move my in and out points so that they're logical and there's even more bulk taken out. And then just hit go once you move those in and out points. So there's my area. You can see it's a little clearer. It's going to lay a little bit flatter. And now I need to deal with these stitch lengths. So what I'm going to do is take a look at, how long are these lengths and what can I do to lengthen them, because your area is smaller than 1 millimeter. So what can I do to lengthen these stitches to make them show up? So I go to view angle, and you can see there's my angles on the corners. Now what I need to do is just left click on one of these green nodes until that highlights red. And then I can move my mouse over this one of those green nodes, and I can get a bullseye cursor, and I press and hold my left mouse button and drag that to where I want it to be. And I'm dragging it to an angle, okay? And I'm going to come over here and I can do the same thing. And the length of these things, the length of these angle lines or block lines do not determine the stitch length. What they're determining is your stitch direction, which is going to give you some stitch length, because you need to get that stitch length inside of that small satin area to be at least 1 millimeter. Alright, so I might also want to add a stitch direction guideline. So to get to that menu, I'm just going to right click on the shaded area, or I can go up to angle on the main menu bar. But what I'm looking for is add a block direction or stitch direction guideline, and I just left click and drag, left click and hold my mouse button down and drag a line at the angle I want. Then let's just hit generate or go, and you can see I've lengthened the stitches because they're at an angle versus trying to increase the size of the area. So now there's another thing I can do. I can look at this shape and go along the long sides here. So I'm going to get rid of these lines that we've done, and we've got the two main ones that we had, and I'm going to left click and start dragging these block lines so that they're going the length or width in this case of this oval. If the width is wider, then I can kind of move these around and use that width. The satin direction can go in a different direction if that's going to give me some better length sometimes. So, do the same thing. I would just angle these as needed and give yourself some stitch length here by making the angle a little more, long, I guess, for the stitches. And if you needed to add a stitch direction guideline, of course, you could right click and do that. But you can see now I've added some more length. I'm also going to move my in and out points so that they're a little more logical because I'm taking out this bulk there. And there we go. So that's how you would increase the length of your stitches to get a small satin.